Computer. Excellent. Okay. So, good morning. I just wanted to start this moment together off with an acknowledgement that today is the winter solstice and it's the longest night of the year. Maybe we all rest well tonight. And to give an acknowledgement to this planet that continues to spin us through these different cycles of humanity and just the seasons, and as we continue to sort out and figure out who we are in this ever turning wheel of the year. And I would like to say also that today is the conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter in the sign of Aquarius, which is going to elevate and lift all of our energy from earth density to air liberation. And so may we become more vast, more light, and maybe back up to see what else we're not seeing when we find ourselves stuck. That all of the answers we need are right here. They've always been right here. And that opening up to the vastness of cosmos within ourselves will bless us with all that we need to move through our human experience. And so I will finish this with an acknowledgement of the land that I stand on in northern Idaho and the Coeur d'Alene tribe, and to be blessed with the energy that moves through my feet each and every day, that I'm in acknowledgement of this land I walk on. And so shall it be for all of us in our different places. Remember who you are, because we are light and vastness and limitless. So may it be. Welcome to the new era of air.
Mm, you.
I have been waiting for this moment my entire life, this particular day. And thank God and gods and all of the energy that's out there that here we are with more opportunity to share our grand hearts. So Jeannie, why don't you begin by sharing who you are, where you are, what you're, just give us a maybe 3 minute synopsis of your beauty.
Okay. I'm Jeannie Sechrist. I live in Dallas, Texas. And like Donna said, I met Donna through, we took the CIT course together as participants. And then she went on to do the facilitator training. And then I followed her after that. So we weren't in the same facilitator training course. But yeah, well, I've just been, like all of us, we've all been on a journey. And my journey has taken me through some deconstruction, I guess, of like who my past and trying to understand it. And I honestly would tell you I never would have expected to be where I am right now in terms of how I view the world and how I view myself and how I view others and how I view whatever you want to call the greater spirit or whatever. Words I think are so limiting. But yeah, so I grew up very differently than how I see the world now, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the experiences I had. I'm thankful for the transformation that I am undergoing, and I guess it was kind of, Dante, there's that quote, and I love it so much, that quote in Dante's Inferno. I think he starts it out by saying, midway through life's journey, I found myself in a dark wood, having lost the way. And that was me probably 4 or 5 years ago. And yeah, so, CIT was actually kind of one of the little beacons, little points along the way to help me kind of get out of that dark wood. And I've loved meeting Donna. And so I guess I signed up for your emails, or signed up for the emails of this, and I got it yesterday or today. And anyway, I'm just happy to be here. I think that's been 3 minutes. So thank you.
Jeannie's just a star too, and she has, like, when we met, she was in like, what's happening, and that's where she is, and that's, I think, where so many of us are, in that.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
Hyacinth, you want to go next?
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Oh, yeah, it's actually raining, cold, and quite late, just after 6, actually. So I know people are getting ready for that global peace meditation. Thanks for having me here. My name's Hyacinth Myers, and I'm from London, UK. I really hate introducing myself. It's just a really bizarre thing, isn't it? And I suppose for Aquarians, which still try to push ourselves in the box to do the introduction, but I'm going to do my box introduction and then an alternative. So I work with women to help them overcome their adversity stories. And I do that with a range of tools and tips and tricks that I've learned in my own 30 plus years of overcoming adversity in every form. I'm also a creative, and most of my background for the last 33 years has been in community work. So I've worked with young people down to in the prisons, with lifers, with people that had HIV and AIDS, parents of children with disabilities. My youngest son has got disabilities as well. Yeah, and that's it. I'm just a creative. I just feel like I flow through life, but I do have strategy and plan, because Aquarians do love structure. So yeah, that's it. Don't know what else to say. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Hyacinth. It's, yeah, we don't have to give the box. We're not I mean, like, we're in a bunch of rectangles here, but we don't have to give the box. So we get to be vast, right? It's new stories, new narratives. What are we going to write about ourselves? Like, what are we going to pull apart? So, Brenda, good morning.
Morning.
Want to
So
share?
I'm in Northern California, and I was invited into the charter at the same time that I also was invited to participate in creating the last 3 visionary summits with the Shift Network here in Sacramento, because Sacramento is the capital of California. And so we also, by way of an organization that I am now the program lead in, was involved in for some years, Mercy Springs Foundation. What we did was we bridged gaps between small nonprofits here in Sacramento, and kind of helped new nonprofits start up if they wanted to, and also gifted them with little bits of money or volunteerism. And I got in there by way of meeting some women through a really dear friend of mine at East West Bookstore, where my friend taught the Artist Way work, and I taught yoga and meditation and alchemy there. And so I was teaching through East West, and that's where I made a lot of connections with people. I also had a school for children for 18 years. So I've always been supportive of peace and freedom for all people, including children who are not actually treated as human beings. And so I was really, yesterday I was on a call with a group and that are working with elevating education to a whole different way. And I, as a teenager, wrote journal to myself, my adult self, so that I could remember what it was like to be a teenager, so I wouldn't go into that amnesia that so many adults have about what it's like to be a child. They just all of a sudden get themselves and they fit in the box, and that's what they do. And I was glad. And so that was ingrained. So when we decided to have children, we decided to actually be present for our children. And then I quickly learned what education that it really didn't care about the child for the most part. And sometimes well-intentioned people, but even teachers aren't necessarily well-intentioned. They're often have big egos about what they think they're going to bestow upon these young children, rather than looking at children and each individual here as a gift. So it's not even just children. So once we did that for 18 years, we retired the school, and I, in a transition, started working with adults, because I saw so many adults not free. So I've never been an activist. I've just been a creator of opening up new pathways to do things. And in the process also got involved in trauma release and started working worldwide with different groups and women. And so it just kind of happened. And then I became involved in the charter and got to meet Sarah in Toronto, because I just follow spirit when spirit tells me what it is the next step. And the next step was going to the Parliament of World Religions, which I didn't have a clue why I was going there. I was actually a bit afraid to go there, because I'm very much in love with God, Goddess, and as a yoga, participant and leader in yoga, I know the divine, and yet to go into a religious context, I wasn't quite sure what that would be, especially because I was to guide 200 women into their bodies through deep movement. And so many women are in their heads, not in their hearts and not in their bodies. And it's still kind of the case. But as Donna said, today, this conjunction and just the setup that we've been going through the last few years, especially with the Scorpio and all the energies of the planets. So I'm quite in tune with astrology, Vedic, and this is exactly what we, placed ourselves to be here at this conjunction, to really lift the divine feminine in all form. So that's why I didn't initially start working with women only, but I found that women, we do hold a lot of the keys to open the gates and allow this, to show the way, and by being who we really are and really embodying. So I love what we've been doing with the Charter Women and Girls this past year. I don't know how familiar you are, Jeannie, or even Hyacinth, with all of the webinars we've been doing. I really invite you to look at the page, to go to some of them and, meet some of these amazing people that we've been able to put out there. And, Hyacinth has joined us because of her work and what we'll be doing in this next year with Partnership for Safe and Sacred Now. And we really, again, want to elevate the wisdom of all women and resource what it is that we already know, and, be able to then kind of like highlight that so that they can walk into their own wisdom, not fix it for them, but highlight it. Yeah. So it's nice to hear from both of you a little bit about you, and look forward to getting to know you more. Sorry, that was probably, I'm no more than 3 minutes.
That's okay, because we're also allowing for space. It's like we have to be comfortable with allowing for space to continue and not trying to contain people, because that's really Capricorn energy, is containing. And we're in now Aquarius, 0 degrees. Everything is possible. 0 degrees. There's nothing but growth to go forward. So, yeah, we just are vast. Sarah, you want to introduce?
Oh, introduce. So, I'm Sarah, and I am in Toronto, Canada. And as I mentioned before we hit the record, I started with the charter as signing the charter. I got to know this charter through Super Soul, Oprah's Super Soul Sunday that I was watching back in 2013, and Karen Armstrong was there and talked about the charter, and I was hooked. I had to go and check out the website, and I saw read the charter, and I'm like, yeah, I'm affirming that. Just like Eugenie, it's like, yeah, it's not even a question. So, and then just, I guess, silently watching and observing what was being done. I just knew compassion was my calling, and that then became my journey of whatever personally I was going through in 2013. So it was not a coincidence. It gave birth to later to me founding my own, what should we call it, venture, or my calling, which is Compassion First, and solely focused on women and girls. But my approach is that I want to model what it is I want to share with other women, and so that's really what I've been doing, learning everything I can about what compassion is and means to me, and how I can shine that into the world. And that's been my process of learning and getting to know lots of people. So in 2018, I decided that I was worthy enough. It's funny, right? With time, like getting the confidence to say, hey, I think I want to be a partner of the charter, Women and Girls. And Sandy Hart was the founder, the lead at that time. And she welcomed me in very warmly. And then she told me, hey, do you know the Parliament of World Religions is coming to Toronto same year? And that year was like, I was on a roll. Like I then offered to do 2 workshops at the Parliament. And I got to, get to know Brenda there as well, and lots of other beautiful people. So it just, I think that year was the one that just said, hey, just do, you can do whatever you're here to do. And then saying yes to being part of whatever initiatives Women and Girls had at the time, without really knowing what I could contribute with, but I was ready to discover, and that's been very empowering. And I've been able to, share with my network what the charter is about and get them at least hooked on to following the social media. And it's like, it is growth, and the more comfortable I am around it, my network is going to feel comfortable around, oh, what is it you're doing? Can we be part of something? And that, so that whole mobilizing effect is something that I've really embraced. I think if that's one thing I could say that I could bring to the table, that's that my enthusiasm, my passion for doing this work, and then just saying, hey, why don't you come along? Do you want to? Come on, you can do some too. You can do some too. So I've seen amazing things happen when you give people just the space and opportunity to participate in something. Say, hey, can I? Yes, you can. And so that's how I've landed myself here, and I love it. Love what we're able to do, and how we can take something grassroots, tie it to something global, but also vice versa, which I'm working on now. Is like, I feel like I've got all these international connections, and it's like, oh wait, okay, how do I weave the grassroots, that what I do locally, to the charter's work. So that's next for me is, I'd love to bring, compassionate cities to Richmond Hill, where I live, and see how I can do that with what I'm doing with Women and Girls and Compassion First. So yes, this is an amazing place to be. Thank you.
Sarah, partners in crime.
That's what I wanted to share from my box, about my box or whatever.
Your rectangle friend. It's your rectangle.
Rectangle.
Which is that technically still a box? Right? Hey, we're creating it. We can make a triangle box.
We can call it whatever. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Well, most of you already know me, but for the recording, I will just introduce myself. I'm Donna Mills, and I've been with the charter about 3 or 4 years. I think probably 2016, 17, something like that. And then I had a moment in my life that was quite traumatic, and so I dropped away. And that was about the time the parliament happened. I had intentions to go to the parliament, but when life comes through and says, nope, you're going to do this, you go, okay, I'm going to do that. So I was blessed to be able to meet all of you just in the way that life sometimes blesses you with like sprinkles of gold dust. And I just feel like I have shifted to the more hope side of the teeter-totter than the less hope side of the teeter-totter, because I'm finding that there are people. I don't want to be in an echo chamber, but I am surrounded by the people that are seeing the shift and change in our society, that we've kind of swung from the pendulum all the way to the end, right? That's why I feel like 2020 was this end of the pendulum. And we can take a breath and let it start coming back towards the center, and the work that I do with women and girls is ever so important. This came to me while I was listening to all of you, in that it's important for women to, if we've had a masculine energy and a feminine energy at about wherever, right? Pick your thing. And I think the work that needs to be done is to remind women that, yes, of course you are worthy. That's not even a question. Of course you are. And then how may we help you come to the table shoulder to shoulder and have your voice, right? What can we do to hold the space open so that you feel like there's a space here for you? At the same time that men hold still, like you're not going down because we're going up, but hold still and hold a safe and sacred place for us. Hold a safe and sacred place for us in partnership, because the majority, I'd have to like kind of sink into my body and ask, yeah, the majority of men want partnership. They also don't benefit from domination. And so as we move from the masculine feminine conversation into domination and partnership, we start to take another step forward and out of the mud of duality. So that's what I love about what we're doing here. And from there, Sarah, I think we could just jump into, if you have a particular way you want the agenda to go, but I thought we could jump into explaining a little bit more about what the Partnership for a Safe and Sacred Now is going to be, or we can lead off with what we finished this year and how we're moving into the next.
Yeah, we could do that. So the things that we've got on the agenda are, like, we like to give updates on what Donna and I participate in the Monday staff and volunteer calls. So that's the Greater Charter, all the leads participate and staff. And we know, okay, here's what's going on in the Greater Charter, because what we want to do as sectors is we're an extension of the core work of the charter, right? So how do we translate that into our sector? So we like to give just updates, what's happening, what's the new initiatives coming up, and what have they asked us to contribute with, right? There's invitations to contribute, and I'd like to share those today, just briefly. So I don't want to take time away from what we already. I want to be very mindful of the time of the hour that we have set aside here. So an update on that, I can do that either now, or we have on the agenda the wrap up of V2020, and then birthing into the PSSN, which is we'll explain what that is, but into 2021. Whatever you feel flows right now, we can do, Donna, but yeah, within that half hour. So
yeah, why don't you go ahead with what's happening at the charter?
Okay. All right. Okay. So like I said, I'll do it high level. First of all, I want to acknowledge that I think you're all on the email list, and Donna did a marvelous job at creating a beautiful newsletter for us. We're really trying to see how we can, how we can keep improving or expressing who we are, right? And you did an amazing, she spent 5 days on it, I think. So thank you so much. You uplifted it, and it had a whole, you know, a very professional, welcoming kind of feel to it. When I read it, it was like, wow, I was blown away. So amazing. In the newsletters, we, you know, we do mention some of the things that are happening at the charter as well. But that's so that we have it on record and we can go in our own time and go and check up on those. Coming up, first I want to say the charter now has a marketplace, so a shop, that we invite you all to go and check out. It's an attempt, a second time, I think. They did try a couple of years ago, I believe, and so that too is evolving. It's another way to, like I said before, or maybe I said it in a different call, I don't remember, but making compassion, the word compassion, an everyday word. Like, people need to really get a grasp of what it is. Having the merch is another way, right? Wear it. We have had an invitation for the sectors to also, women and girls could come up with some designs, or maybe some quotes, or something that we feel would be neat, that they can put on the different merch. We could say we want t-shirts, and I believe we then can even generate some funds to our sector. I'm not fully, like, we haven't explored that fully, but that is an invitation we heard, and we will, Donna and I will talk to Felipe, who is working on the marketplace. Please do check it out and see what ideas come, and let's send them a few designs. I mean, that would be great. We are, if not one of the more active sectors, because we have wonderful volunteers, that are, like, we have more than others, so we've been able to do more, and so that would be a great thing to check out for you. The next thing is in January. So from January 18th to February 28th, the charter is celebrating the Martin Luther King 40 Days of Peace. And it's 40 days. It used to be in person because of COVID. It's going to be virtual. Again, we have been asked by Marilyn, who is our executive director, all sectors, please submit whatever you would like us to play. And so Donna and I have initially, like, we've done a little brainstorm. We thought it would be great to post or share the Mother's Day proclamation video that was created during these V2020 webinar series. And also maybe pick out 1 or 2 webinars from both the V2020, like this year's series, but also from the reaction to response. There must be some great stuff. Not everyone gets a chance to go on the website and go through the things. So here's a wider audience that's going to get enough. So what do we as women and girls want to put on the map, so to speak, right? The 40 days, there's lots of opportunity. Charter will decide, the people that are producing it, where it's going to go, but let's give them some content that's already created, and perhaps we have an idea to maybe create something, a short video. We're talking about maybe we, whoever is willing to, could do like a video of each of us either reading another document that's very, aligned with where we're going next year. It could be a poem, whatever, and we're reading it, those, I don't know what they're called, but where you see one face, we're all reading, but then you fuse it in, so all our faces come on. Like, that could be beautiful, sort of also to put a face on who's working in the women and girls sector. And so that's just a creative idea, but please, that's an invitation for you to bring in. I mean, Brenda, you do the peace polls, for example. I mean, I was thinking that we will reach out to our peace partners, within the women and girls sector, see if they have something that they would like to contribute, and we share that with Marilyn or the team, and they can see which, let's give them something. So that is another invitation to contribute. Hyacinth, oh wow, yes. You could write a poem. See, that would be great. Like something like that. I haven't read the other comments, sorry, while I was talking. But that's an idea. Maybe we can bring on some girls to do that. Right? We have a lot of women. We're women and girls. So those of our partners that work with girls, which we have a few, we can reach out to them and say, hey, would you like and it's related to peace, or any of the initiatives that Martin Luther King was working on. So beloved community, nonviolence, it's all these, right? Everything goes under peace. So that's something we're excited about. Third thing was the Charter Education Institute. So Jeannie, where the Life University or the CIT course is one that is being offered through CEI, Charter Education Institute. But we're also encouraging, we try to take as many courses that the Charter is offering. We invite our ambassadors to especially look at the one that's called the core program. I think it's called the Compassion in Action. Yeah, that program talks about how the Charter for Compassion is structured and how the sectors are related, and it gets you to think about, why do you think the Charter is important or compassion is important? So that's a good guide for us to work on what's next, and it keeps us connected to the core Charter, which is what do we call it, a focus of ours, that we would like to really stay close to what the Charter is doing, so we can amplify it through our sector specifically. That's sort of what I had on my the last thing is inviting you all to, whatever you would like to contribute with. The other sectors do need volunteers. So if you feel you have a talent, as something you're really strong at, and you can help the Charter, they're so open to receiving more help, especially social media or website management, or technical backend stuff, Zoom, but also writing for the newsletter. So small blurbs, it's not even a lot that they can put in, but just some words of wisdom that we, feel like, oh, I have time today to write a little blog. Well, feel free to share it with us, and we can pass it along. They have deadlines, which is Monday afternoons is when submission for it to come in the following week's newsletter, and they'll fit it in. So if writing is your forte, please, feel free to, we would love more content coming. We're revamping our website, the Women and Girls, just refreshing it, looking at, Marilyn has asked us to look at the logo, revisit that, because she's trying to see if all sectors can streamline. These kind of conversations are happening. What else? Newsletter. So those are the things that, please, feel free, you can volunteer for within sector or with the others. We can connect you. They're very open people, willing to receive help. The last thing, sorry, this is the last thing. Thank you, not sorry. We're trying to use different language. Thank you. No, I have to have a glass. Donna and I, excuse me, were invited to a conversation last week to discuss or explore, I will say, explore how we can create space for boys and men and the LGBTQ2+ community. Maryland does not want more sectors. We're already 12. So we're thinking of how can we create an umbrella and still have sacred space, hold sacred space for women and girls specifically, boys and men specifically. We have Clay Boykin who comes on our calls. He's a partner of the charter. And then Felipe, who I mentioned before, who's now a staff member. And John Boswell, I think, is a lead for he doesn't have his own sector, but is the lead for the LGBTQ. I'm sorry, I'm learning how to say it quick, plus community. So we had an initial conversation, very exciting. Everyone really embraced the idea of finding a way to support each other and yet have each other. So we're not dissolving anything, we're evolving it into, we've learned so much in our sector. We want that space to be available or similar to the others. So this is a new recent conversation and we're just going with what's coming. But yeah, that's it from the update from the charter. Thank you.
I have a few things a few thoughts to add to that. When Sarah says you're welcome to investigate or adventure through the other sectors, please invite other people that you know too. Like if the environment sector isn't something that's calling to the passion in your body, but somebody who would totally dig it, then let them know about it. And like Sarah said, I wrote down the word amplify, so we can amplify in any kind of ways, right? Through others, through ourselves, or we end up here as cross-pollinators. And so don't limit it to yourself if you feel called. It's an open, receiving, welcoming organization, and does definitely have the intent to become more representative of people around the world. And I'll just leave it at that. So yeah, I was thinking about splicing a video, getting Felipe to help us to maybe splice a video with part of the Mother's Day proclamation video, and then maybe some things that came out of the last couple of years, what we've done this year and last year, and for the MLK thing. And so we'll just see we'll just see where that wants to go and how it pans out. But we definitely have so much to choose from in our library from the last couple of years. So it would be really lovely to go through those and just watch them again and see what comes up and what comes through that hasn't composted, that's still a seed that wants to grow. So and I'm going to email somebody named Bree Mathers, and she runs an organization as far as like girls are concerned. She runs an organization called The Skin We Live. Is it The Skin We Live In? Yeah, The Skin We Live In. And I met her through Rian Eisler's Center for Partnership Studies. And this is what she does. She works with young girls. So I think it would be a perfect, beautiful partnership. And we've had a little bit of contact through some common emails, but it's been a couple months, right? It's like we're all just trying to hold on to all the tasks. So I do want to invite her, excuse me, to see if she has any time to contribute here with Women and Girls, or what can we know? What do we need to know that she might know in order to become more vast, I guess. Let's see. Okay. The other thing is there's still a continuing progress going. The charter's applying for a multi-million-dollar Kellogg grant. I think it's $90 million. So I've explained this before, but I'll go through it really briefly. $90 million. 10 organizations will get $1 million a piece to continue for the next year to unfold what their plan was. So you have a very brief moment to tell the Kellogg, who are you and what are you doing? And then they'll choose 10 and they'll all get $1 million for the next year to sort that out further. And at that point, they'll choose, out of the 10, they'll choose 5 that will go on, and 3 of the 5 will get $20 million a piece over the next 10 years to work towards racial equity is one of their big type of things. And then the other 2 of the 5 will get $10 million over 10 years. So it's a big thing, and the charter really wants to receive this grant. And so if you have thoughts, you have ideas, one thing that I offered today, and I'd love to hear your feedback on it before we go into PSSN, is that, and I'll see if I can bring it up and read it really quickly. When we talk about racial equity, and I'm trying to find something, here we go. So it talks about Aquarius right now in this conjunction, saying that, the conjunction initiates us into the fixed air signs outlook. A visionary who is able to be emotionally detached enough to think through each step of an issue, Aquarius observes what others are too entangled within to understand objectively, right? So it's pulling it back. It's not about Hyacinth and I being Aquarius. It's about like everybody's an Aquarius right now. Everybody's in the Aquarian energy that is infusing in here, right? So as we look at gender, what I've been feeling is like, when we look at gender and racial equality, I feel like we have to even come back even further and look at it as a humanity. How are we as humans, right? Acknowledge the pain. I'm not trying to wash over or go through or go around or skip it at all, but acknowledge the pain, acknowledge that grief needs to exist, that we have to go through a grieving process the same way that we learn to go through a forgiveness process in the forgiveness class. And so acknowledgement, grief, and then healing, but there's like, we can't mire ourselves into that. We can't nail ourselves to colonization. We have to unpack it, but we also have to step back and ask, how are we as humans, not how am I as a white woman. Yes, also that, but not nailing ourselves to that one point in time and realizing that it's even more vast than who we are. And so I'm trying not to come off as the all lives matter. It's not about that. It's yes, Black Lives Matter. Yes, Indigenous lives matter. Yes, we have to do this healing. Yes, we have to have grieving. Yes, we have to have accountability. But at what moment do we stop accepting colonization and say, we're done with that? We're all, as a human species, we're done. And what's the next best step? And I don't know the answers to that, but that's just what I'm feeling called to. Yes, this all matters, and there's more. So we'll see. So before we go to PSSN, does anybody want to respond to that?
I will just, I know, I hear what you're saying, and I feel it too. And the delicate balance that I think that you're showing, are you guys familiar with polarity thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the idea of holding two values and not putting or between them, but putting and, and it's a balance. And I feel like we've been in this age of like the other, and like either or, it's either this or that, it's Republican or Democrat or conservative or progressive or blah, 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 and I don't know, even just talking about that, like, makes my body feel gross. And so, yeah, it's the both and thinking. And I hear what you're saying, Donna, like acknowledging the pain and the grief, and having that has to heal. And I don't think I mean, I could say as a woman how I need to heal. I couldn't say as a Black woman how I need to heal, because that's not me. But I know what you're saying, and I get it. Hopefully our humanity will continue to evolve more and more, where it is just more, we're not like so identified with certain things that keep us stuck in
Yeah,
don't know.
thank you.
Yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying. And I also get the
I said
the
the same
need to
thing.
be delicate with it.
Yeah, I said the same thing to Felipe. I asked him in between our two meetings, like, I really care to know, how does that come off? Because, and he's like, I also see where you're coming from. I also agree. And I also know that as a white woman, you may not be heard. And I said, yeah, and that's okay. I can just put it out there and back up and then just see if it seeds into other people, right? Like, I can be very gentle with it. And I think that's what's called for. In fact, I just heard that from Spirit, is like, this is a very gentle balance. And you may need to just drop it and back up and and just let it go as it goes. And that's okay. If that's what I need to do, then, that's what I need to do. And that's
I think that's what it is. Your comment came also during our call this morning, and this, what you're feeling, and it's time. It's about time, giving it time. The grieving, the anger, the frustration, the oppression, all the words we can think of, the horror, whatever is sitting in generations, has to be given the space and the time to come up for those who want to break the cycle. And it's on both sides for those who want to. And so that brings us back to the 18th Sustainable Development Goal of self-awareness and personal agency, because that's the two things, right? The more we grow in awareness, Donna, you can only feel that call to step back, and that is because of the work you've done on yourself. I can feel it because of the work I've done on myself, and that's why we're showing up. Brenda, Jeannie, Hyacinth, what we're investing in this self-growth, and then we're learning, okay, this is who I am, or remembering this is who I am, and this is what I choose to do. This is what I can do. So keep saying, by us keep saying, comes down to choice, because there will be those who will remain willfully ignorant. Well, do I want to invest my time in them, or do I want to invest my time in myself and those I align with from all backgrounds that are willing to move, break, dismantle what is really, hurtful, and then join hands, and then work towards what we want. So it really comes down to that. But this, I feel it, I sense it when I hear indigenous women speaking, especially, but also Black women and brown women, of other women of color. Just I hear the anger so much, and I may not identify with it as much, but while I'm also in the process of dismantling because I grew up in Denmark purely white, and I was the only brown, and yes, I got whitewashed in some people's eyes. Yes, there are some things where I just didn't notice, but now that I can do some of that work, it's like, okay, all right, now what do I do with that knowledge? Right? Does it serve me? Does it not serve me? And that, I think, is the work that we can show up as women and girls, but women as leaders in this work, is so important to keep saying, do this work on ourselves, right? But we can't say it to each other. I can't say it to someone, because I'm in no place to tell someone that, hey, you need to work on yourself. I need to focus on me, and hopefully that's going to bring what I call, that effect. It's going to vibrate, and people will feel inclined towards, well, okay, maybe, yeah, okay, right? So Donna, definitely, it's time. We have to give it time, but have this backup plan, or the intention in our head. This is where we're going. This is where we're going. Brenda, go ahead.
Well, the air energy of Aquarius is about vibration, and so it's in the air waves, and so it's how do we connect with people. And if you think about it also, that there's this level of recognizing that there's the light and there's the holding of the space of the light, and so that those two beget each other, and that's the wholeness. And something I'm just kind of been sitting with is when you last call where we talked last week and mentioned this whole umbrella about bringing in, the different gender identifications. It's really important to do that. Yet I wonder, I'm kind of stuck on, I heard a word that Charter was considering calling it gender equity. And I feel this has more to do with the care of the human being. And when I look at all the sectors that sectors that we have, we've covered, healthcare and peace and environment and all of those things. And so those encompass obviously the human, yet we're talking about all human beings. And when we were preparing to do an event in Seattle for Alchemy, I was working closely with Clay for several months, and in the gender equity world, they don't have LGBTQ plus magnified yet. They don't have it figured out yet. And so that got raised to our attention, and we were, because of Clay's enthusiasm, all of a sudden we were doing an event that was going to be women, and then it was going to be men, and then we're going to bring them together. And then everything started shifting, and somebody said, well, you're going to have a LGBTQ plus room also. And my feeling was that none of us, even the LGBTQ community, was yet to a place to do that work, because they were still working on even those letters at the time, because this was over a year ago. And so that knowing of the self. So when we are talking about putting all of this under one umbrella, no longer being women and girls, on the website, it's going to have this it's important to know what is our purpose. Because for me, is it gender equity, or is it about care of the human being? The human itself, all the interpersonal aspects, and we talk about self-agency and all of that, and being able to, be welcome at the table, no matter who you are, and have a safe environment. And that's really, why we're moving into, to the PSSN, Partnership for a Safe and Sacred Now. And yet people don't yet know what that is. And so I think that this takes a little bit of conversation to discover what it is that our purpose is. And obviously we're going to be the women and girls, but we've been fostering Clay with the men and boys for a couple years now, so that he could be with us and kind of see how women and girls was fostering development there. And how do we cross-fertilize that between those elements under some kind of an umbrella? And, I know, Donna, I love that, how do we human well? And it is important to recognize that we recognize the differences and honor all those, and we recognize the similarities. And really the similarity is that we're human beings, and yet all having such a very different experience. I was watching a video with my dad last night, and I looked at the people that were on the stage, and this was, gosh, I'm sure 40 years ago. And I just, it's so interesting to see all these white people, and how when so many people of us grow up, yeah, I had some gender diversity. In fact, we chose to stay here in Sacramento because Sacramento is so diverse. It's it's an actual microcosm of the world because it has so much diversity. And we chose to stay in the neighborhood that I'm in right now because of that, so that our kids would be enmeshed in it, and they wouldn't be in some, obscure white community that didn't have any kind of diversity. And yet, we still have, even on our televisions today, that kind of picture, and how that must feel to not be included.
Mhm.
There's no way I could imagine it. I can feel it somewhat, but I can't know it. And I love that, like yesterday we sat in a meeting and this beautiful young Black man came on and talked later on. And it was so nice to hear his voice, because he brought up the history that I'm well aware of, because in the school that we created, we knew that because we were talking about abandoning these principles of what everybody believes in education, that you got to do this, you got to get this degree, you got to, to succeed, there was no way that some cultures were going to come to our school that was saying, no, that's not what you need. You actually need to foster love and joy. And they couldn't, because they're trying to get into the game, just getting into the game.
Mm.
And a broken game at that. A misconfigured game, absolutely, that is detrimental to, the human being inside, to the soul.
Yeah.
So I wanted to touch on that. I know we're getting done with time, and I don't know that we're going to do any of the other stuff because we started talking about this, but we have the flavor of different people that come on these calls. In 2020, though, everything in the world was, kind of turned up on its ear. And so I look forward to how we go forward. And I just want to say I'm really glad to see you two ladies here along with us, and I'll be done.
Thank you, Brenda. It's important. It's important to be in receptivity of what else is possible, right? And to have the conversations and say, is this possible? It came up in my space, right? It came up in my psyche. Excuse me.
A young woman yesterday, sorry, while you're coughing, she was 15 and she wrote this gorgeous poem. And one of the words that really struck me, and I was having a conversation with another person the other day, this pressure for children to be on Zoom and get their work done. It's when the world is falling apart the way that it is, it's ridiculous. It's like, why this pressure? Just take the year off. And the word she identified was leniency. And I hadn't heard that word, and I loved it. It's like, how can we provide leniency to each other to learn and grow? Like we do to a small child. We're all very young at this.
I love that word leniency. It reminds me of the two words I've been using, which is ease and grace.
Yeah.
I choose to be in ease and grace. And that's that leniency, right? It's like, hey, if you spoke for more than 3 minutes this morning, be in ease and grace about it, right? Like, let's have our space here, and to connect in a way that is of that receptivity energy, right? That's of the partnership energy and not of dominance. And so I wrote that down. I love that, Brenda, that you brought that up. I wrote down care of the human and the self, and then the human experience sector. Maybe it becomes a human experience sector, right? And so we'll bring that up, right? Yeah, we'll just bring that up. Yeah, right. Here it is, and you said it, so I just wrote it down.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. The human experience sector, because then that honors all experiences. I don't know anything about the chart. I mean, I don't even know what all the sectors are, but that sounds like a cool sector to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then it's not brushing aside someone's experience that maybe we don't understand. It's honoring it. And then, you talk about the Aquarian energy of just making space for growing, and honoring it, healing it. Yeah, that's what, it's like eventually we want to heal these wounds and move to the next level, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
As
Yeah.
humans.
In the newsletter, I used the word growing through when I said it was like going through was what somebody would say, but I purposely put growing through because we are growing through. It wasn't a typo. We are growing through this. And it's good to allow ourselves to be children again, right? Like to look in wonder. That is an Aquarian energy, is to look in wonder, to see what else is to be, what else can be seen. What haven't I seen? And to be childlike and whew, chills all over my arms, right? To remember our entire experience. It's like, wow, we start out childlike and then we age and then we get back to childlike as an elder and, coming in and going out of the earth the same way we did. But we forget so much in the middle about that. We forget so much of the middle and we get stuck in these narratives. And so, speaking of new narratives, Jeannie, that's what our whole sector is about. It's like, what are the new narratives that are asking to be birthed? And so, as places like the UN are putting together big nonviolence programs and programs to end violence against women and children, it's very difficult for me to engage in things like that because the main focus is violence. We're trying to end it, but the main focus is violence, right? Like I can't engage in that type of stuff. And so we came up with the idea of a sector to address, or the idea of not a sector, project for next year to address how do we speak about and to women. Because I'm tired of the degradation. I'm tired about the way, it's like there was another wise woman earlier this year that spoke about, I don't want to be a woman in the way that they've defined women. I don't want to be a woman in the way that we've defined women. So what are our new definitions, right? What are we like? I can look at the computer. Okay, well, maybe that's just a vehicle of connection for me, so we can rename everything that we want to, and it's not to create confusion, but to create a deeper understanding. And so PSSN, a partnership for a safe and sacred now, is our answer, our penny into the fountain of what do we want. We want a partnership over domination. We want a system and a society of partnership over domination. We want safe and sacred spaces now. We don't want it, well, yesterday would have been good, 2,000 years ago would have been great, but let's just talk about now, because we don't need to drag the past into the present. We just need to be here in the present. And but we can use the past to illuminate the future in ways of, like Brenda brought up this year, let's look at systems around the world that already elevate and illuminate the sanctity and safety of women and children, right? And then when we can do that, it's not just a partnership for a safe and sacred women and children, it's for a safe and sacred now for all of us. It goes back to that human experience, right? So that's the gist of what we're going into. And I really tried to explain it in the newsletter, kind of the same way that Clay is explaining his In Search of a New Compassionate Male archetype, right? He's talking about that I don't have all the answers, so I'm in search of. And as we will be in search of, or in growing through it, right? We're growing through it. So here we are as the gardeners of our own 2021 and how we're going to go forward. And ta-da, it's 11/11 on the 21st. Booyah! So last night I went to bed at 12:12. I know because I took a picture of the screenshot of my phone, said 12:12 on December 21st. I was like, yes. And I'm home. And I'm home where I'm vast and uncontained. So may you all be vast and uncontained. So Sarah, Brenda, Jeannie, Hyacinth, anything else that we want to leave some parting words of wisdom, of grace, of healing, of love, joy?
Just a nice exhale.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
This exhale. So I'm teaching it to my family, and so they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yes, the oxytocin breath."
The oxytocin going.
My husband was laughing in the beginning, and I was like, "No, try it."
And to exhale down into the earth because it's so solid. It's always been there under our feet. Even if it rumbles, it's the most steady and solid thing we've ever had in our entire life. So anxiety comes up, the energy comes up our body. So to bring our exhales down and into the ground, start pulling your energy down and give it to this lovely piece of land that loves us so deeply.
Yeah. I always talk about it as a waterfall, just allowing the water to fall down your core, just cleanse and purify, and then just sip in to the nectar, sip into the cool, pure water, the pure breath that you are, and not light. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ladies, for this time. And this is it for 2020. And we shall see each other in the new year. May that be a peaceful transition for all of us, entry into the new year for all of us. And whatever you're celebrating as well, if you're celebrating Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy Solstice. What else is coming up? Hanukkah is done.
I mean, not
Kwanzaa.
Kwanzaa.
Yeah. Kwanzaa, yeah. So, and Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Right.
And Jeannie, if you want to be part of the programming, I'll send you an email for we meet twice a month on the second and fourth Monday. So if you want to be part of the programming and building this together, you're welcome. Everybody is welcome at the table. So anyhow,
I would love that.
that's my
Thank you,
breakfast.
Donna.
I love
Love your breakfast.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Blessings. Beautiful human.
Have a great day, everyone. Evening.
Nice to
Hyacinth.
meet you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Many
Thank
blessings.
you.
Take care. Take care, ladies.
Happy New Year.
See you soon.
And you.